Well, the roller coaster for Punjab continues after the debacle against Delhi. They made a good comeback and then they're back to losing ways again. A game that they feel, and if they look back at the season, they will definitely feel that they should have picked up 2 points from. Here's a reminder of how things went down. Lucknow picking up the points, getting to the close to the top of the table, but we will see that later on. 153 for 8 is what Lucknow put on after being put into bat, and Punjab, at least early on, looked like having that under control. Mayank Agarwal came out aggressive, but then wickets kept falling at regular intervals. All their key players, it was up to Johnny Bairstow at the end, and once he fell, it looked like done and dusted. 133 for 8, the victory margin finally 20 runs, but it was comfortable once they had lost those key wickets. Here we are to review that on Cricbuzz Live and to look ahead to a big weekend coming up. 4 games. Pommie Mbangwa, Shaun Pollock joining us. Shaun, you were right in saying even at the halfway point that Punjab should have been favourites. Imagine what you're feeling about a prediction, what the camp themselves is feeling about their own predicament.
Yeah, I think they just got to look at their batting unit. I mean, I was having a look or thinking through it. I mean, KL Rahul was brilliant for them over the last 2 or 3 years, and the other contributions really came from Chris Gale. I suppose Mayank had a good season or two as well. But that batting lineup, I mean, even Shikhar Dhawan, I was thinking to myself, if he was in the Delhi lineup, what I remember about him last year is the movement on the crease, getting outside off stump, flicking it over the square leg. He just seems to have gone into a shell. 5 or 15, even the interview and the question reply we got from where it's trying to go for a calculated approach. He wasn't thinking calculated last year. He was just batting, wasn't he? He wasn't trying to really overthink it too much. So I don't think they're in a good space batting-wise. I think they're still searching for what's their ultimate 3. I think they're searching for roles at the back end of the innings as well. And I think that would be a bit of a body blow because at halftime, they've got to have been thinking that they should get over the line there.
And you could see from Mayank Agarwal, even if you didn't hear a word of what he said, his body language, he looked dejected. And I think, Pommie, that kind of sums up the kind of space they're in. I mean, a post-match press conference for Mumbai these days, they seem resigned at the moment to their fate. But Punjab very much in the mix.
Yeah, do you know, when we were sitting there and saying, what do we think? Are they going to get it or not? The reason, the big reason, and I was thinking about it over and over as I was watching the game and trying to think like, okay, why should they get over the line? One, because it's 153. It's not a score that you would fret over. If you get half decent start, then you get there. If you don't and you just keep wickets intact, then you can sort of hit your way out of jail at the back end. And I think perhaps having to put those scenarios together, it might seem silly of me to say this because these are international batters, but that's the problem. The fact that they have to try and figure out whether, how do we bat this situation? How do we crawl along and go there or what? I think that's the problem, because if you have a scenario where they're not chasing what is a middling and to low score, and they're chasing 180, 190, whatever it is, then there isn't a decision to make. You've got to go out and you've got to play shots, and that's what they would like. That's what that as a team, too much of it, I think, has been right. Get out, whack, 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 away we go. And everything is whack, whack. But unfortunately for them, and all of us would have known this coming to play the tournament in Maharashtra alone at 4 grounds, that you might get away with whacking it up at the front in the first 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 games, maybe 9 games. But somewhere down the line, you're going to have to actually play because the surfaces are going to get different. They are different now, and they have to play differently now. And I think that's where they're not managing to do it. They're kind of tentative and unsure. And in the end, because of that indecision, are making poor decisions and ending up, not getting over the line.
Where then, Shaun, does the buck stop in that Punjab team? Because they've got to look back at a defeat like this. I mean, the 115 all out, again, like Bangalore's double-digit score, you tell yourself, okay, that's our bad blip of the season, let's move on. What do you tell yourselves at the end of this?
Yeah, I think sometimes you got to just analyze. I mean, like Mayank, I think he got himself in and he started to play some wonderful shots. You can't really say much about his dismissal. He's given himself room. He's absolutely middled it. But some of the other options. I mean, Bairstow got a laugh and then gets out chasing that immensely wide one. Livingston, his power is, we just saw it, 2 sixes straight down the ground with absolute brute force. And then he's going to try and fiddle one over 45. I don't know if that's his game. So I think the batters have to go into that dressing. I mean, yes, okay, maybe they got 10 or 15 more than they should have in the last over. So they should have maybe been chasing under 150. But as the batting unit, you've got to put your hands up and say, sorry, guys, we should have chased that down. 2 of us should have taken responsibility to go just over a run the ball without too many risks and got us home to victory. So, yeah, I think they do. I think it's been more a case of their batting. Obviously it has let them down so far. And sometimes it does create divides in the camp. You like, well, come on, guys, surely you can play your end of the deal here.
Yeah, and I think what Mayank Agarwal said at the end, I've just got onto the Cricbuzz app, and he's right. I mean, he's not just trying to shy away from it. He said, I just think we kept losing wickets. We had batsmen who was set. We kept getting out. Soft dismissals. Disappointing. We have to face the truth. We didn't bat well enough. Below par with the bat. We are bowling exceedingly well, doing a lot of right things as a bowling unit. So I think he summed that up perfectly well, because at the halfway point, the bowlers will have felt that, okay, they've given the batsman something to chase. Decent.
Yeah, more than decent. I don't think they could complain about what the bowlers did. Bowlers did a good job, and as Polly says, perhaps a few more than should have been at the back end. But at the start of the day, you win the toss, you decide to field first, and the side gets 153. If they say to you then that, look, you chase 153, you need to get 154 to win, you take it every day. And I know you might then think, no, hold on, we can get them out for 120 or whatever. But that's a bit unrealistic. If you had said 153 is on the board, you can have that to win the game. I think most sides, if not all sides, will take that on that pitch there.
Yeah, with looking at the other side, of course, plenty to think about for Punjab, but Lucknow will take a lot of positives out of it, be it unearthing yet another star. It started with Ayush Badoni with the bat. They've now found Mohsin Khan with the ball. And I think, Shaun, this performance from Mohsin Khan shows all of us exactly why they said, okay, if Avesh is fit and ready to come back, we're not just doing like for like. Mohsin bowled well, keeps his place, out goes Manish Pandey. It worked.
Yeah, I mean, if they, in all honesty, if they have to include another batter, it's Avesh Khan for me who misses out. I think Mohsin Khan's been fantastic. I'm looking at Pommie behind there. I can see his pony. He's definitely not a one-trick pony. He's got plenty of variations to him. He bowls beautiful seam up front. He gets to shape. He's got those cutters. He's got the cutters back of a length. Chimera, I think, goes down for me as the most improved. I mean, the last time I saw him, I enjoyed what I saw, but he's just come on leaps and bounds, and his confidence is right up there. And now you've got your 2 spinners performing well. Pandya has been good, and Bishnu seems to have found in his niche here now. So that's all good signs for them. It really does look like they've got quite a polished little unit going there, and they've got options as well, because I think Avesh Khan will get better once he gets back. I think, coming back off an injury, you're never quite sure how you are. Every game that you play after that, you tend to feel a little bit more relaxed about the injury and start to perform better. So good options for them, and they did a fantastic job again. As I say, I was really impressed with their other closeout the other night in Mumbai, and this was good.
Talking about options, Pommie, even if you take it in a different sense of the word, Jason Holder, normally a 4-over banker for them, just bowled the 1 over today. So if required, they could have turned to him. They've got the 2 spinners. One of the spinners is a batsman as well in Krunal Pandya. So it's just showing how the mix is coming through perfectly at this stage.
Yeah, I think they've got a good bowling attack. As a side, as I said at the start of the day, I think they're a decent side. I don't think you'd look at them and think, oh, they're not a good side. They're one of the better sides. They're one of the better put together sides with regard to covering the spaces that you need to cover in terms of trying to make up a team. And that's looking at their whole squad. And when they put their first 11 on the field, you're not looking there and thinking, oh, there's a hole there or there's a hole there. No, not really, because they've got firepower in just about every area. And the thing I'd say about them, and I keep looking at them and thinking, okay, so Dushmanta Chamira, would you say he is the main bowler for Sri Lanka? Maybe now he is, but he's kind of trying to grow into that space. Would you look at Avesh Khan and say he's a main bowler? Think back to when he was at Delhi. He wasn't the main bowler because there's Anrik Nokia and there's Kagiso Rabadas. And yet, what did he take? Wicket after wicket, game after game, and ended up somewhere there. And as far as the wicket takers are concerned, Bishnoi, yes, he was sort of main spinner at Punjab, but not really, because he's some youngster and he's turning. In fact, I think there was a time where we were all calling for, why aren't they playing Bishnoi? Why aren't they? Because he'd be left on the sidelines. And you could go through just about all of them. Holder at SRH, he wouldn't come into the side. He'd sit on the side and he'd come in, he'd get wickets, and then he'd be dropped next game, or he'd be dropped a game or two later because he's not first choice. Here they are as a collective who generally don't let anyone down, but they're having to fit into this role of being frontline guys who are the ones who have to do the job. And so far, so good. They're doing a decent enough job. Keep it simple, just game after game, churn it out, and no problems. That's why LSG are where they are.
I think Krunal Pandya is the same, isn't he? He sometimes didn't bowl 2 overs, or he didn't get his full quota of him for Mumbai.
Yep, and he's been asked to bowl at key times. He's been answering the question. I think he was even player of the match today. I was just looking down to see that. There would have been a few options for that one, but I think his contribution at a key time at the end got him the player of the match. Would have been a toss-up between him and Mohsin Khan, but good effort there from Krunal Pandya. Also a magnificent catch. Quick word, Shaun and Pommie. The one thing we saw today was forget Rahul's catch, that was spectacular, but was some very, very safe catching, particularly from Lucknow.
Yeah, there was. There was some good stuff by them, and that's not the easiest ground, having played a few games there at the Pune Stadium or been involved in a few. It can be quite a difficult ground to pick things up, so they'll be happy with that. And I think that's good signs for the camp. I tell you what, also good signs for the camp is that they won the game without Rahul contributing, and getting a big score. There would have been like a dependence, much like Joss Butler for Double R. He gets the runs, they end up winning the match. So this time around, Rahul doesn't get anything really substantial, and they go on to win. And I know that slips under the radar, but from a team perspective, that's actually important that they managed to do that.
In fact, Pommie, that's exactly what we talked about on Cricbuzz Combox early on. It seems a long time ago, but that was our first reaction. We opened it by saying, okay, there's Quinton de Kock out there. And guess what? They're in, I forget the phrase I used, Rahul-less territory.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. And so having to discover what they're like without his runs and without his contribution, and having to fight to make sure that, hold on, we have to scrap together and put something on the board. The responsibility is on everybody else. And they've come through it. They've come through it at the other end. And no doubt it makes it, it makes them better as a side. They know they can, right? And so the next time when he scores runs, because it's when, not if, when KL gets some runs for them, perhaps somebody else hangs with him and they get a decent enough score, a big score, a winning score, just simply because they've had this experience where he hasn't got runs and they've come through.
Yep, and there's a few other people who can possibly do a few things for them as and when required. So they look like they've ticked a few boxes, have Lucknow. Lots of thinking for Punjab to do. What does this mean for the real numbers that matter at the end of every game? The points table. Where does that take Lucknow? And look at that. Right into the top 3 with 12 points in 9 games. Yes, both Gujarat and Rajasthan have a game in hand on them, and they could potentially get to 16 and 14 respectively. But 12 at this stage, getting to the business half of the league stage, you'd take it any day. Punjab will now start worrying with just 8 points in 9 games, and with 5 to go. they can get to a possible 18 points as a maximum. So they can still qualify, definitely, with 18 points. Anything less than that, you're already treading on dangerous territory. So Punjab, a few things to think about. Lucknow will be flying high, but I think plenty is going to change over Saturday and Sunday. Let's focus on Saturday. What lies ahead? 2 games. Firstly, in the afternoon from the Brabon Stadium, it's going to be the hard-hitting Bangalore side who will need to put their campaign back on track against the high-flying Titans from Gujarat. This is match number 43, and they are really playing like table toppers, and probably one of the teams we can say has almost virtually, Shaun, booked themselves a playoff spot.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I mean, if they don't get it together over the next, they got 6 games to go. I mean, I think it's too good a team. One thing I would say is RCB will be looking for the other change room next time they go to that ground. They don't want to have that same experience that they had where they were 3 down so quickly. So if at any chance, I'm sure they'll be looking to change and go to the other side of the dressing room. They do have, they call in all pockets, aren't they? I mean, that's 2 games. You know, when one blip happens, you write it off. But after 2, it sort of becomes a little bit of habit. So they've got a lot to do. And the Gujarat Tigers are going from strength to strength, feeling confident about what they're doing. And, I mean, they almost have got themselves into other positions where you think, well, they shouldn't be able to bounce back or shouldn't be able to win the game, and they keep doing it. So that's a lovely space to be at. You in those teams' environments, you start to look around and think, well, who's going to be the guy? Because we're going to win this, but who's going to be the guy that's going to step up and do it? That's the way you start to feel.
Yeah, they're not a great second half team. We've seen historically Bangalore haven't been a great second half team. Can they change things around? Because they'll need to do it very, very quickly, starting against the table toppers. If we have a look, Pommie, at the lineup that we've seen for them, are they looking at a change in personnel? You can look out around the dressing room. You'll see every member of the squad there, pretty much almost everyone. What do they do to try and fix things? Because it's some of the stalwarts. You're not exactly going to be dropping a Virat Kohli, but it's a Virat Kohli who'll still be looking for runs. What about a Rajat Patidar? Does he hang on to his spot?
Yeah, I think it's quite tough for them because, I mean, just looking at their previous game, and you were talking about the one they get bowled out, and yes, you're double figures, you get absolutely smashed, and away you go. But in their next game, they're chasing, and they can't chase down 144. So there's a problem. I mean, so you can't put a score on the board, you can't chase one down, and their bowlers all the while, they think they're going okay, I mean, they're bowling nicely. So it's with bat in hand where the problem is. And in trying to fix it, basically what they're saying is, we'll hang and hang and hang because former national skipper is bound to come. He's a great at the game. He can play. We know he can. Surely he'll come around. Surely, every time he doesn't get a score is closer to the time where he will, turn the corner and away you go. In the previous game, when he edges and inside edges, and you think, perhaps the luck's changed for the guy. Don't think so. So I don't know. We all watch and we wait with bated breath because what can you say? I mean, it's terrible for him. It's terrible for the side that is going through this trough. But hey, if you're the opposition, you want it to continue every time you turn up and play against him. You hope that you can get him up because it has, despite him not having got runs for a while, it still has an impact on the RCB side when he doesn't get runs.
There were a few games early season, Shaun, when we sort of said, look, the one relief of Kohli not having scored too many is that somebody else is stepping up. Faf du Plessis on a couple of occasions, all their victories came and we said, okay, it's papering over Kohli's lack of form. But now, of late, especially the last 2 games, it's sort of come out in more glaring proportions.
Yeah, you do need everyone to contribute. Top 3, top 4, they dominate tournaments. So, you're going to have games where Faf du Plessis gets nothing, and Maxwell maybe gets nothing, and someone else has to step up. And that's been the point in cases that there's been 2 games now when no one stepped up, and that's why they're finding themselves in the situation. So, once they've had their team meeting, what you could probably do as a management is ask the batters to stay behind and ask everyone else to go. Just have a quite cool drink with each other and just sit and chat and just give the team the impression that you've identified the problem and that you're working at it, but actually don't make it too serious. Keep it a little bit lighthearted. Just sit and chat for 20 minutes and say, come on, guys, let's just go relax, back yourselves. You've got some wonderful talents. Just go out there and produce. Because, I mean, if you think what Dinesh Karthik did a brilliant job for them at the bottom of the order in so many of those games, actually, in the first half. I mean, he probably 2, maybe even 3, he almost won on his own. And he just almost hasn't been able to get into that position again because the top of the order has been so poor. But, you would get the feeling when you look at the personnel there that it does have to change. But for Virat, it can't be a nice place to be. It's definitely not something he's ever been through. Since he started as a youngster, he's just continually performed and performed and performed. So he is now wondering where his next run is coming from. And he'll be hoping that he can turn it around sooner rather than later, because it's not a case that a proud individual like him wants to be in, where he's probably thinking to himself, gee, I wonder if I should stay in the setup. When I say in the setup, in the team, in the starting lineup, or should I give it a break? I mean, he never thought he would have to face that kind of thought process.
Well, that's been the talk everywhere, but I think the conclusion is that the great man needs to step up. It's this afternoon game at the Brabant Stadium, but they'll be up against a team who are flying high. So not ideal circumstances. The one thing you'd probably have told yourself, listen, if we really desperately need a game to turn ourselves around, can we not find a team who are 9th or 10th maybe? No, that's not happening. They're playing the team at number 1, Pommie, and that's not going to help at all. Gujarat Titans, they've been doing really well. They've got a good bowling attack. So if someone at the top of the Bangalore order wants to get himself sorted, you've got some serious firepower coming up against you there, right up top.
Yeah, they've been flying for sure. What a side. I mean, when we say top bowling attack, what they are is exciting. For anyone who bowled seam up, you watch these guys go and they're sending them down that fast. It's brilliant to watch. I know batters might not like it per se, but from Mohammad Shami, Yash Dayal, been really good. Lockie Ferguson, and he's leading in terms of the fastest deliveries. And then Alzari Joseph in the last game, he bowled really fast as well. So almost as if they're kind of egging each other on and people are watching the speed gun, So, yeah, it's brilliant. And with direction as well, decent control. Just after those 4, you think, you've dealt with the fast bowlers, you can maybe go at a spinner, as happened actually in the previous games. Now, often you'll say that Rashid Khan will get whacked all around the park, and he was whacked all around the park after the seamers. He came on and they absolutely tucked into him. So, normally you'd say it means that he's going to be more potent. People are going to be taking liberties against him, and so they'll get out to him. He'll probably turn it up. It's not often, as I say, that he'll go for 40 or whatever. He went for 45 in the previous
45,
game. So he'll be sort of turning up and trying to prove the point once again that, hey, I'm still here. And after the fast bowlers, you got to deal with me, and it's not going to be so simple.
And if there was one area, Shaun, that maybe we asked a few questions about, it was a wicket-keeping slot. Matthew Wade early on in the season, again with Shubman Gill's knocks, they didn't really notice it. Then came Wriddhiman Saha, didn't start off too well. In the last game, Saha got runs. Now that seems to be almost plugging that one little gap that they had, Shaun.
Yeah, and I think it's just to have a realistic expectation of what he's going to give to you. I thought his performance in the last game was brilliant, but don't expect someone to be striking at 180. Just let him go about his own business in his own way. And when he's got a combination, when Gill gets going, then they can balance each other out nicely. But there's nothing wrong with the way he's played. And we've seen it over the few seasons. He does deliver quite often when he gets an opportunity at the top of the order. But then it's like 1 or 2 games, it's not quite what they want, and they look to throw him out. I think they need to run with him now. They've seen what he's capable of. And I think he can still do a decent job for them there. So if he takes the confidence from the last game and carries on the same way, I think the opposition are going to start working out, though. Do not go anywhere near the leg side. Do not give him that opportunity to be able to whip it across. I think percentage of boundaries, maybe have a look at that tomorrow before he starts his game. It must be over 60 or 70% of his boundaries are leg side. So
I thought it
you
was
would think the
100.
plans would be better. Well, there was one that he hit over extra cover. I saw that.
Did hit over extra, yeah.
And I think there might have been an edge that went past third man. So that's 2 on the offside.
Yeah, but of course, Rashid Khan, after that 4 overs for 45, also managed to hit 4 sixes just for fun, just to say that, listen, I have 2 sides to my game. If I don't get it right with the ball, look out with the bat. So they've got enough all-round talent. Hardik Pandya was doing it early with the ball. Now he's in there as a specialist batsman and captain. So plenty to think about for the Bangalore boys as they take on the table toppers. But that's not all the action we have on Saturday. We've got another one coming for you in the evening. And this one is one of the top 2 playing the team at the bottom. Yes, it's Rajasthan taking on Mumbai. Unfamiliar territory for Mumbai. Now, they're really at a stage now, Shaun Pollock, when they know that top 4 is not realistic, to be fair. How do they start playing from now till the end of the season? They've got to do it for themselves. They've got to do it for the fans. And they've got to also upset a few apple carts in the opposition.
Yeah, it's not a possibility to qualify anymore. It's about pride of performance. Each and every one of those individuals will be feeling poor about what's happened, from a team perspective. And there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 guys who can maybe hold their heads up high and say, listen, we've put in a stint and it hasn't worked out for the rest of the guys. That's why we haven't won the games. But they're proud individuals. Each one of them who plays the international game and even on the domestic scene, they want to be doing well, and they won't be happy with the way this has gone. So I expect them to kick into gear soon. And Rohit Sharma will be the one who wants to lead that case. He'll be the one who wants to take the game by the scruff of the neck and say, come on, guys, follow me. It's just unthinkable to think that it could be 9-0. So as much as Rajasthan are playing brilliant cricket and things are going well for them, and Josh Butler's in unbelievable form, I somehow just can't believe that it can be another bad game for Mumbai. It's got to be the time where they turn it around.
So when you talk about pride of performance, Pommie, and you look at the people who have done it for you or maybe failed to do it for you, a few individuals, Tilak Verma, Surya Kumar Yadav, can obviously put their hands up, as Shaun said, and say, we've done our bit. Do you look around here and say, look, whatever happens, let's give us you guys a go?
I don't think that you can do that. I think there will be changes. I think, however, because things have been so poor, it can't be with kind of gay abandon changes for the sake of changes, and we'll just give everybody a go and going to treat the tournament like it's a trial for everybody. I don't think they want to do that. As Shaun says, there's the pride aspect of it, and they will sit in the room, and whoever's in charge and will kind of say, listen, we can't afford to be in this situation. Yes, it's year 1 of everyone being together, but this is a proud franchise. We won the tournament the most times, more than anybody else. And there's no way this is acceptable. It's not acceptable to whoever's in charge. It's not acceptable to the players themselves. So they've got to ensure that they're having a better second half of the season. And yes, it might be upsetting the apple cart and so forth, but they need to show how they can play. And they need to show that, not that we don't know this, that they're better than what they have shown to this point in the tournament. So there'll be changes, but there'll be balanced changes to ensure that they put a side out each time that they feel are strong enough to win, as they've done before, and it's not worked yet. But yeah, it's not a case of just trying people out. I don't think they'd go that route, because then it would look like they're not taking it all too seriously or seriously enough.
Shaun, where do you stand on this? You've been in this dressing room before, maybe even at times when they've been hurting from the odd defeat, but nothing like this, obviously, before. Where do you see the changes coming, if any? A couple of the big names like Tim David definitely getting in there?
Yeah, I would think that would be one change. I mean, I haven't been overly impressed by the bowling department, so it might be a case in point where they start to back the locals, and then get someone like a Tim David in the middle order there to see what he can do. I mean, the amount of hype, the amount of money, the amount of talk that went about him before the tournament started. What did he play? 2 or 3? Did he get 3 games at the start? So I'd be very surprised if they've continued to lose for 8 games, that they don't go back to giving him an opportunity to see what damage he can possibly do. But I think just bowling wise, I mean, I don't think Bumrah's been as supported. I mean, a lot of teams are just looking to see him out, and maybe you've got to try and change that up a little bit as to what role he plays. But I'm with Pommie. I don't think there'll be massive changes. You know, if it's a 55-45 decision and the guy who's a 45 is slightly younger, yes, maybe you go with him. But if it's a 60-40, you still go with the side, because, you know, as I say, there's proud individuals who want to perform. There's a proud management who won't be happy with their records being tampered with 8-0, and they need to get things back on track. And I do think if they do get things back on track, if they win their first game, the teams for the rest of the tournament actually won't be wanting to play them, because they'll be playing fearless stuff. They know that they're out of it, and the guys will start to really back themselves and believe if they can get that first victory. It's just almost like they can't believe what's happened, but if they can just break this trend, then things can change quickly.
Yep, Tim David, just to confirm, has played 2 games. That's all he's got. 2 games in the tournament so far, and
that doesn't make sense for the hype and the amount it was spent.
For the cash,
Yeah, and also the potential. I mean, the fact that the cash came was because of the potential. That's the reason they went hard. That's the reason Kolkata went hard for him, and that's the reason many other franchises around the world have done so. And in many, he has actually come out the better. The opposition, well, we haven't yet got to a stage when teams are starting to fear Mumbai in terms of being a team who can just throw everything at the game. For the moment, Rajasthan will need to keep up their winning ways, and they've got a decent set of personnel to do it. On the face of it, Pommie, doesn't look like they need to make any changes. The only one person in there, they were trying to choose between the 2 New Zealanders. We had Simon on the show last time around. He wasn't overly impressed by Daryl Mitchell overly. Still felt that Neesham over Mitchell. Where do you stand on that?
I don't know. I think Neesham will feel the same way as Daryl Mitchell might feel if you get given one game and then away you go. I mean, Daryl Mitchell was not playing his first game this season. He was playing his first game ever in the IPL. So there's that as a consideration, just how overawing the whole thing could be. And so in terms of what talents he has, we know he is versatile and he can sort of bat up and down that order, and many will prefer to bat up at the top. But they're kind of going into their resources. And now in talking to Sanju Samson at the end of that game where Daryl Mitchell played, he went to great lengths to sort of try and pat on the back the guys that have been dropped after not doing much or not doing anything wrong per se. So a side where the top order has been going particularly well, and so the middle order doesn't get a go, and when they do, it's like once in 4 games or whatever, and then you find yourself dropped, and you think, well, you know, what could I have done? And it's kind of just we're trying to figure this out and we're trying to figure that. So all their tinkering, I think, is very much a case of we're just trying to see what we have and how things are going, but they're a happy side. And if Daryl Mitchell got dropped, I don't know if it'd be a case of your performance wasn't good enough and we don't think you can get better. I would be inclined to try and see what else he can do. Just give him another go to see if he can settle and he can do what it is that you're looking for. Same for Neesham. I don't think Neesham was dropped because I just think they felt, okay, we can make this change, we'll make the change. And they're winning as they do all of this, which is comfortable and nice for them as a group, but maybe not so much for the individuals. Hopefully the individuals can actually understand, as the skipper says, that they understand that it's a team decision for a particular purpose.
7, 15 and 29 runs have been their victory margins. The one question we've been asking throughout And obviously, Shaun, this will be pertinent as we get closer to possible playoff time, is they'd like a situation where they've got a total in front of them and they chase it down.
Yeah, and I think that's the luxury of the situation they're in. That's the only box they really feel like they have to tick. It's not like what's our best team, or who can possibly do this role, who can do what role. And at the back end of the tournament, particularly once you've qualified, then you can start to even tinker with it. I mean, you might win the toss and say, okay, well, let's put us in that scenario. So if we do face it in a knockout game, we're good to go. But I don't think. I think the way they're playing, the confidence level that's in that squad, I don't think they'll be too upset whatever they have to do. They've got the way they like to play, and that's the way they intend to play the best. But if it changes, I think the way they're going, they'll be fine.
Yeah, another big positive for them is Rian Parag. Just a quick one to finish with. Obaid McCoy recovers, gets straight back in, Pommie.
Yeah, I don't think it was too bad, actually. Whatever his issue was, I think it was just a change. And let's also understand that he is injury prone. So there is the necessity for them to, one, keep him sort of well oiled and moving along, but to also ensure, and I can't believe I'm saying this in terms of like four overs guys have to bowl and all of that. But it is true. Like that's kind of what happens. The intensity of it must be incredibly great, and for him particularly, because he's sort of always coming back from injuries and trying to get himself fit. You want to ensure you manage the workload in terms of how many games, how many days in between games, and all of that. In a situation where you're losing and needing victories, all your best players, you kind of just have to play them. Never mind whatever, you kind of gamble the other way, actually. But this time around, if you're in a situation where you can manage workloads and ensure that you put a team down, you play here and you have a week off, or you have 3 days off, or whatever, then you go ahead and you do that. And what it does also is it gives others a go, and it keeps a few ready to play, rather than just a certain person in the position. And then say they get injured when you get into a big game and you don't have a replacement who's had a go. So yeah, perhaps he comes back because he's had enough of a rest, or he needs a bit more of a rest.
Yeah, kid gloves, fast bowlers, I tell you. Got to treat them. You got to treat them well. I've got 2 on my panel here. Isn't that wonderful? But I just have a sneaky feeling, even though it's a night game, Mumbai win the toss, bat first, because they just want to clear their heads and put a total on the board. Rajasthan not too upset about it, deciding to chase. That'll be a bit of fun and games at the end if it does happen. Well, that's still a long way away. That's going to be on Saturday evening. We've got a game before that, which we've talked about. And we've just got one factor left. That's the joy factor that we haven't dealt with today. Long time ago is when we asked this question. It was one of those interesting questions he throws at us. It was a nickname question. And I didn't get too far in solving this one. 2 players not only share a nickname, also competed against each other at a T20 World Cup game in 2012. And signed up with the same Indian franchise. Name both of them. I don't think Pommie or Shaun have any ideas. Neither do I.
Yeah, it wasn't Polly and Polly from Mumbai.
Yeah, that was the closest it could have been. That was the closest it could have been. But let's see what it was. Share a common nickname. Let's give you the answer. Who played against each other in 2012? Alex Hales and Brendan McCullum, nicknamed Baz. I must confess.
I didn't know.
I didn't know about Alex Hales' nickname being Baz. Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And of course, the franchise in question was Kolkata, Brendan McCullum, Alex Hales. A different matter. He had to pop out, and in came Aaron Finch. But let's have a look at who got the answer. Obviously, someone who knows that Alex Hales' nickname is Baz. And it had to be Cricket Nuffy, one of our encyclopedias. Manan Mehta knew that. And that is victory for you. Well done to Manan. Plenty more questions to come as we go to the end of the season. It's going to be a busy weekend. We know that all of you like a bit of a party when it comes to the weekend. So we'll remind you that Match Party is coming your way. And that is something to look forward to. Joy will be there in all probability. And all of you can watch it on Cricbuzz Plus. Same place. You can also find interviews, anecdotes, and, of course, the very all-important retro reels. That's all the time we have after this particular game where Lucknow have got up to close to the top of the table. Bangalore, lots of questions to ask. Big weekend coming up. Just enough time to say thank you to the gentleman not in navy blue for the one last time, wearing a black shirt. Well done, Pommie Mbangwa. Shaun Pollock is definitely in blue, in a Mumbai blue, and that's all we'll leave you with. It's the lighting, I'll tell you. It's the lighting. It's physics that we are trying to grasp here. So many things we talk about on the show. Thank you, Pommie. Thank you, Shaun. Thank you all for joining us. That's all on Cricbuzz Live.